gentlemen, boys and girls, clowns and pumpkins.
He said, "Do you want to start this one?" And I said, "Oh no, I know you've got something up your sleeve."
Pumpkins. Let's talk about pumpkins.
Maybe I should have started this one.
No, let's talk about pumpkin spice because that's what all the girls like.
You act like these are all like our friends. My name's Dara, by the way.
Oh,
You want to introduce yourself?
That's Dara. My name is Montoya. No, my name is Sean. Welcome to another episode of Maybe I Love You. It's our podcast about new relationships and getting married, and then what we learn and what we think, and then we try to tell you how you should think.
No,
and
no.
They need to know how we think, and they need to think exactly like us.
No, someone's gonna take this way too serious. That doesn't know you. No, it's open discussion.
No,
and fun fact: we are exactly 1 month from today from the wedding, which means
not February 1 month. We're talking like July 1 month. 31 days. It's 31 days.
yeah.
Okay, I'm being clear.
So wait,
because technically for the next 3 days,
next month, exactly today, we'll be married.
Okay, well then that's technically.
I'll be on my
too.
third dress. Don't ask.
Yeah. Anyways, so today's podcast is.
What are we talking about?
If you've noticed the intro screen, it is whether or not couples should have common interests. I mean, technically, it's can you date somebody with no common interests? So we're gonna kind of discuss it. I think we have our opinions. They're probably wrong, but our opinions. So I guess you can kick it off.
Yeah.
Do you think you can date somebody with no common interest?
No, I don't. But I can elaborate.
Okay.
I think that even when you look at friendships don't tend to last over a long period of time. Like, sure, you build memories, but your closest friends are friends that you have just common things that you go and do together. And I think if who you're dating or your future spouse is going to be your best friend, like, you've got to have those things that drew you to that person outside of them being so good looking or so funny like you.
Your friends are good looking?
No. Now I'm transitioning.
I know.
Now.
I knew where you were going.
Yeah. And
I just
so
want to make it awkward.
I feel as if you have to have those things that kind of connect you. I think most people think the same way. I would imagine they would want to go on a date with someone where they could talk and it seems easy, and they can, whatever their thing is, they feel like that person can connect, whether it's they both like to travel or they both grew up playing sports. But I think the longer you're with somebody or when you're married, you would think those bonds would grow stronger. But what I've seen is that a lot of times the common interests become just your kids, or, you talk about work, but you're not really deepening those bonds of hobbies and activities and things that you really need to sustain a relationship.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. And I definitely think, I don't think there'd be many people that would date if they didn't have common mental similarities.
Okay. So values. I think values are super important.
You're both nerds. You're both into similar stuff when you can have discussions. Because I think the basis for when we talk about relationships, we're talking about dating. So friends. I totally agree on you. And that's what's interesting is as you get older, your friends from childhood
shift.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
I think all my closest friends I met through work.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
Well, and memories can only take you so far.
Right.
You can't reminisce forever. You have to still have those commonalities. And same with a relationship. You may have great memories of when you were dating, but if you're not building new memories, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There will be a problem.
So I'm gonna agree. I think it's best to be in a relationship with someone with common interests. But I don't think it's necessary. As Paula Abdul said, opposites attract. And I do think there's an element of the attraction that the two people can be different. And I've seen it with dating through all the many years of seeing people dating,
Mm-hmm.
and you got the chick, and then she always goes for the bad boy,
Mm-hmm.
and they really have nothing in common. And then you run into them 20 years later, and they have 2 or 3 kids, and now she has tattoos and she rides on the back of a Harley. And you're like, I guess she morphed into this. But I do feel like I think you can date and perhaps even marry someone with no common interests. But I do put a little asterisk next to that. I think it's important that you guys can have quality time, that you guys can have, I mean, here's what sucks, okay? And you've probably seen this, is with old people or older couples,
Yeah.
and they don't even like each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She goes off and, she does tennis while he's doing the golf course.
Yeah.
She's always having all of her friends over, and he, leaves to go hang out with his buddies. So
See, and I know what you're saying there, but I really disagree. I think you have to have common interests. I just think you don't have to share all the same
Right.
things. Like, you love sports. I would rather go shopping. But I think you have to have those common interests, because without them, I feel like over time, life will always demand more of you with your jobs, with your kids. And if you don't have that foundation of, remember when we used to love to do this together, it's a lot. It's harder. It's a harder uphill climb.
I agree.
Because
I
I
think it's a lot
think-
easier
Yeah.
to be in a relationship with someone with a lot of common interests.
Right.
But I do think you can make it, because I've seen it. I mean, you've seen
Yeah.
these people that are married
Yeah.
for 50 years, and you're like, what do you guys even like
Well,
about each
and
other?
I'll point this out. So when we were dating, I remember, and I don't know if I shared this with you or not, but I remember thinking in my head, hope I have enough time with you, because there's so many things that I want to do. We were
Okay.
talking about cooking and music and songwriting, and you were working on, a playwright. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to do, like, together.
Right.
And so I think that's, like, obviously that's a good sign, but I think that attitude of, we don't have enough time, there's all these things we share, is special. But I did recently hear a podcast, and I loved this. Above activities or interests, having a common mission, I think, is the most important. So even if you can't find those easy connection points, like, we're both musicians, or we both love cooking, or whatever, we both love, to go dancing or whatever,
Right.
to have that mission mind of, we both are passionate about this or giving. The interview was with Tim Tebow and
Tim Tebow
and
football.
Demi, his wife, and they were saying how, like, she did beauty pageants and he obviously did sports, and so they may not on surface level have a lot of things in common, proving your point, but they're both really, really passionate about human trafficking and raising awareness about the evils of human trafficking, and they have a charity together. And then special needs, because her sister was special needs, she passed away, so they were talking about how right in the initial, when they were dating, other than their faith, that they had this mission of, these are the things we want to do together to have a bigger impact than our relationship.
Yeah.
So I do think, like, that is a hard question to ask your spouse. Like, hey, do we have a mission together, or someone you're dating, if it's serious? But I do think that, like, is even a level up from an activity, is having that foundation.
Yeah,
If you can, I
mean,
think it's important.
I totally agree on the mission. Here's I think the fundamental thing you have to have in common is your view of the spiritual world.
Faith, yeah.
That's I've seen it before, where a Jewish I guess technically they're not Jewish, they're just or their
Yeah.
religion is
Jewish.
but and then they're with, like, a Catholic, and then
I've seen that.
that's a hard one.
Even for the wedding, like, I've seen
Yeah.
where that's been an issue because of beliefs,
Yeah.
like that, the way the ceremony is conducted.
No, I think, like, maybe a Protestant or can get with a Methodist or something like that. I think there's enough commonality, and then they kind of have to choose where they're going to go to. But
Yeah.
if you don't have the same spiritual ideology,
Yeah.
that's gonna be like bad,
Right.
and that's what's interesting about the dating world
Yeah.
is, it is something that you can select on a online profile.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's
We
a
talked
lot of
about
people
it
that
right away.
don't specify,
Right, right.
And so it's like, you're kind of hopping into a conversation with another person, and now you're going like, oh, and by the way, what do you believe in?
Right. Which, I mean, depending where your faith is at, that might feel more comfortable. I know, like, for me, like, that is really non-negotiable. Like, my whole life, I want to be centered around Christ. So I want a partner that feels that way.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal for me to say, hey, what are your viewpoints on faith?
Yeah.
But for some people, if that comes up a little later and it ends up being a big deal, like, yeah, I do think that commonality and mission is really important, more than we both like tennis. I mean, it's a deeper.
So that's where I would say that's your common thing you have to have, and I think that's how those older relationships last. Because I mean, like back in the day, like some of the older people I know that are in their 80s, and still married. Back when they were young, he worked all the time. She stayed at home.
Right.
So or vice versa, or they had two different careers.
But I think the dynamics of that have shifted so much that now we have to look at it from. There's a big thing in the Christian circles about date your spouse.
Update.
Sorry, I'm like choking on my coffee sip. Date your spouse.
Date your
spouse. And I mean, I get it. I get where they're going with that. You always want to continually be working on your relationship. But I think it's more important to deepen your roots with your spouse. I mean, like, yes, you need to go out. Yes, you need to have dinner and talk and develop intimacy. But to deepen something, you've got to have something that anchors it. And your faith is definitely one of those things. But I think it's got to go past that. And it's not just an interest or an activity. It can be really it being intentional about, like, hey, we're going to do a book or a devotional together and then discuss it.
Yeah.
Or, I'm really going to be invested in your work life and talking through things that are going on and vice versa. Those type of things. To just beyond dating. But I mean, there's a reason you get married. It should shift in my mind. Like, I like the concept of date your spouse, but it should go deeper than that. I believe there should be a oneness and a like-mindedness.
And maybe as you get married and you go on in a relationship for a long time, you guys build new interests together because, maybe something neither one of you liked at the beginning, and then you guys kind of, put that kind of new thing into your life. You brought up a good point.
Sure.
Is maybe the fact that you see, I see so many older couples that have been married for forever that just seem like they don't like each other. Maybe it's because they didn't have online dating, and the pool of people was so much smaller. Like, okay, so how did the people meet back in the day? They'd probably meet in common areas.
Yeah,
at church or at the local restaurant.
A small radius,
Yeah,
I would say.
They're not having the abundance of opportunity to really find somebody that's a lot closer to their style. I mean, their online dating profile has multiple pictures, so you can see the picture of them with, dressed up as, a Spider-Man or whatever might have, tickled your taste buds.
That's funny.
But back then it was really like.
But roles were very clearly defined. And so I think they were, if a wife was busy raising the kids, the man was busy providing, then their kids grow up, and now all of a sudden they're empty nesters and they're retired, and they're like, what do we have in common?
Nothing.
It was a little more cookie cutter. And now, I mean, obviously that looks so different for so many people, and their rhythms of life are so complicated. And, you've got people getting remarried and blended families. I mean, you've got many dynamics.
Just for the record, we have a lot of stuff that's not common at all. Like, she likes Instagram, I like Facebook.
I was like, really? Where are you going to go with this? I was going to say, like, sports, but I think it does come down to effort too. Like, knowing that, like, I'll sometimes come home with wings and be like, all right, let's watch the game. And I may not like love it, but I'll pretend.
Oh, she pretends.
And like, I love, like,
she roots for the wrong team all the time. She's like, oh,
whatever.
that's great.
I
I'm
like shopping and pedicures.
That is clearly the
you'll go with
Steelers.
me,
We don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers in this house,
whatever.
honey.
I try. Okay, the key word was effort.
Yeah.
And like, you'll go and maybe do a pedicure maybe with me or something.
Not
just
doing no pedicure. Don't
Okay.
be lying. I've never done
All
a
right,
pedicure.
so maybe the point of this little section is you can have things you do apart too, but you have to have things you do together.
It makes it. I'll put it this way: it makes it so much more enjoyable to have somebody that you have common interests with.
Right.
It's like it's like okay, like let's say that you're hanging out with your buddy or your girlfriend from, elementary school. Okay. The reality is you guys are probably not going to have very much in common. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when it comes to your best friend,
Yeah.
you guys do so much more stuff together because you guys actually found that bond.
Yeah.
And that's what you hope out
Actually,
of a relationship.
yeah,
Is
it's
your
true.
best friend. So,
Yeah, yeah.
the more you guys have in common, okay, fine, I'll get a pedicure.
No, but actually, to that point, like I did have a very close friend from childhood, and when I moved back to Texas, I really made effort to say, let's find something we both enjoy, so it gives us an excuse to see each other. And so we started like this fashion blog thing, and we would take pictures of deals we found, and it didn't last forever because her life looked different, and the reality was
She had terrible style.
And no, stop it.
Okay.
You don't even know what I'm
I
talking
have
about.
no idea.
It was kind of forced. Whereas like a best friend, it's like, hey, let's just go shopping. Let's go grab sushi. It's easy because there's those things that you both would do even if you didn't know each other.
Right.
And so I think that's what the challenge, because men and women are different, but finding those things, I am going to use the example of like the gym.
Okay.
Which is all I've been doing, I feel like lately, is training for the wedding. And so I'm super sore. But, one thing she will always say is you're either progressing or regressing. Like there's not a neutral day. You're either having a good day, you had a good diet, you work out, even when you're sore, just go stretch. You're progressing, or you're doing nothing, you're regressing. You're not like neutral, like, oh, well, it's okay, just have that piece of chocolate. You can make it up the next day. And I think the relationships are the same way. Like you have to always be thinking, am I making effort? Is this progressing? Or are we, oh, well, it's just neutral. We're busy. No, like you're taking steps backwards. So one thing I'll point out is just 3 really easy things to look at is the past, the present, and the future. Like what were past things you grew up loving or that you did when you first dated? And like look at those things and discuss them with your partner. Like, hey, I've always been like, I love going to the theater, I love writing, and like find those things that you both love. Hopefully that's what drew you to each other. And then look at the present, and you might have to be creative. Like you might have to actually think outside the box. Commit to hire a babysitter once a month. If turn off your phones at 8 p.m. I mean, what possible really important work call can you get at 9:00 at night? Like you might just need to turn off your phones. During COVID, we did tons of creative cooking together. Like who can make the most unique grilled cheese sandwich, or whatever. You bought me that adventure challenge. You want to talk about that? Because I feel like if you're stumped.
I mean the thing that we haven't used
Yeah,
yet?
we haven't used it, but it seems so cool.
It is such a great idea.
Yeah, if you feel stumped, like maybe just there's thousands of things out there that will help you get closer to your spouse. So talk about that. I think that's a cool concept of something like you could start tomorrow with your spouse to.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. Okay, I want to rewind, but yes.
Okay.
So in regards to your relationship and the quality time together, okay, let's talk about couples that are together that have no common interest currently. Okay. And how do you make your relationship better? The truth is you learn things that your spouse does like, and you get interested in it, much like you faking football, but the truth is she actually watched the Super Bowl and she rooted for the correct team. Unfortunately we made a bet, so I had to root for the other team, but
and we threw a party and like it was fun. It didn't feel like, that's the thing too, make it fun.
Yeah.
Like find a way to make it fun.
And she does appreciate more because I've broken it down to her. I haven't gone like on the detail level, but
That's okay.
That's coming. It's coming this next season. I've introduced her.
I was just gonna perfect my queso.
No,
Dip.
we're gonna really focus on some football. But
Dang
let's
it.
get. What I'm saying is, if you guys are currently not having much similar interests,
Right.
maybe he likes to fish,
Yeah.
and maybe he doesn't want you out there, blah 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 blah, while he's trying to fish.
Right.
Okay, but you need to go into his environment,
Yeah.
okay, and do it as what's needed, and be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Understand what the tools are in the fishing toolbox, and and know that I need to crack a beer for him because he's down or whatever. But on the flip side, with like your brother and his wife, okay,
So
she was really. I'm going to tell the story. It's a great story. So she,
I told it to you
I know,
before we
like 2 minutes ago, and I
started.
thought it was awesome. She was really into dancing. She loves dancing.
She
and-
grew up competing in
Yeah.
ballroom dancing.
and Sean, it's her brother. totally different. He didn't dance. It wasn't his thing.
No.
And I would, if you saw him, you would go, oh, he does know how to dance. He just doesn't look like a dancing person. But the dude went and like learned how to dance and took classes, and the dude's like kicking butt. And he's and what's great about it is now they have something they could do together.
Yeah.
And it probably in the back of his head, he's probably reluctant, like, oh, I don't want to dance, or maybe I don't like showing off, or whatever the thing might be going in his head. But he just knows how important that is to his wife, and so he didn't just pretend that he knew football.
Yeah.
I mean, dancing. He actually learned it
Okay,
because
and
he cares about her.
And there's a cute part of the story
Okay.
I didn't tell you,
Oh,
so I would
gosh.
have my
Here's a spoiler.
own material. So I think having that intentionality this at like start today. So when they were getting married, they his gift, they exchanged gifts before the ceremony, and his gift to her was a new pair of shoes.
Oh, I was hoping an interpretive dance.
And he said, and then he bought himself a pair, and he said, this is so that we can always go dancing together. And so it was just from the get-go of like, hey, I'm going to commit to do this with you because I know. And it was like so sweet. So anyways, yeah, I think there's truth to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a good piece of the puzzle.
So back to this adventure challenge.
Okay.
I'm so excited about this. We haven't done it
The
yet.
adventure challenge basically is it's a scratch off book, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so you open up a page, you don't know what's on the page, but it does give you some kind of clues on the type of event it's going to be. So it's like it tells you what the budget is, financially.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you the time of day and how long the thing is going to be. So it's not like you
Mm-hmm.
flip open a page like, okay, you're going to walk to Tahiti, but you kind of have an idea. So you kind of would flip through a book and you go, okay, well we have 2 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be a nighttime. So you flip through the book and you find a page that is relevant to your all those factors,
Mm-hmm.
and then you pull out this little scratching thing and you just scratch it off.
And then you have to go
And
do it.
You have to go do it.
Yeah, so it'll be like this, event is after sunset. It's $10, and then that's all
Yeah.
and then you do it. And the cool thing, why I brought this up is that maybe you discover something new you both end up liking that you otherwise would never have known,
and that's
and
the
then it
key.
becomes something that is exciting for both
Yeah.
parties.
I mean, have we discovered anything that neither one of us did and now we do like? I just threw you a curveball.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I
mean,
feel like we have.
You think so?
Yeah, I feel like there. Oh, that's right, bowling. We now love. No, we
no,
don't.
I don't know. I think the problem for us is we already had so much in common, and we both are very like we know what we really like and don't like.
Yeah.
Like so, I mean, could we pick up something new?
I never
Maybe.
did. I never did like recordings of singing. I
Yeah,
never.
but
like,
you always did music.
I loved music. I just never put it on like
Yeah,
the
we do
camera or
do
whatever.
that.
So she makes me throw out the camera and okay, let's do this new song, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, why?
Well, one thing I want to pick up is you love to dive.
Yeah,
you know,
I loved scuba
diving, so
And
that would be something I would
almost
like to
got it
learn.
for her for what was that going to be for? That was
Valentine's
Valentine's.
Day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you almost
we had
did.
I had that
Certification.
Theme. I won on that Valentine's. That was a good Valentine's.
Yeah, he did it on the different elements like water. I think we ended up sailing.
Yeah, it was the four. It was we had 4 elements.
Yes.
And so I did
Fire,
which I got the thing
The
for
blown
blowing fire
glass.
glass, and then sailing for water because I was gonna do the scuba for water, but
That was
I was
super
like,
cute.
And then wind. What did I get you for wind? Guess it wasn't that good. I don't
Earth
know.
was a bonsai tree
Oh, yeah, or I
that we
got her
forgot to
bon-
pick up
I
because
never
there was a
picked it up.
really bad storm in
Yeah.
February, and that
then-
tree is probably
And
dead.
then wind was something. Anyways, I
was
guess it
cute.
wasn't that good after all because she doesn't even remember.
I think it was.
But okay, so as far as to answer the initial question,
Yeah.
is it necessary? No. Is it totally a benefit?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And and when you're picking out your significant other and you're going on dates, make sure that you bring your ideas of things that are important to you to that dating before you get too involved. You're like, oh, I got butterflies and all that. Make sure he likes to knit, and if he doesn't like to knit and you love to knit, you know what I mean.
Well, and some things can remain separate, but
okay,
find,
that's a terrible example.
Yeah, like
But,
find things
okay,
that
if
you do.
travel. Like she loves to travel.
Yeah.
Okay. I think everybody, quote unquote, would love to travel, but a lot of people just don't make it a priority.
Yeah.
It was never a priority. I love to travel, but it was never a priority. Probably for financial and that kind of crap. But with you, it was like that was one of the things. You're like, I love to travel.
Yeah.
Are you game to travel?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
And it feels like a luxury, but I mean, even the gym. I mean, there's a good example. Like we both want to get fit. So that's
Yeah.
something we do together. And
Yeah.
even though we do kind of when we get there our own thing, it's like we go together. We
Yeah.
take a walk at night.
I see her on the treadmill. I just wave at her. As I go to the stair stepper
Okay,
or
so back
something.
to my 3 things, right? The past. So look at things that you like to do or you did when you first dated. Look at the present and be creative, like find ways. And then with the future, think about what your ideal relationship would look like. Like, what would those hobbies look as you grow old with somebody? Like, what would that look like? Would it look like you did some mission together that benefited other people? You know, what does that oneness look like? So here's my Bible drop.
Bible drop.
I was trying to find something about being like-minded and being one. And yeah, I think we blew
I
we
lost-
blew a light. You were
the set's
so
falling
you were
apart.
so good looking that
Yeah,
the light
now-
just said
now-
you can shine on your own.
No,
It-
now I look like a troll coming out of a cave. Okay,
Anyways,
so
so this is Paul in Philippians talking to the church, but I think it really relates to couples too. It says, "Fulfill my joy by being like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interests of others."
Yeah.
And that's in Philippians 2:2-4. And I think this idea of having oneness and being of a like mind means that you do need interests and activities, but it's deeper than that. It's going beyond the shallow and saying what really connects us and makes this relationship different from all my other relationships. And it can't just be the commonality of your kids or, a similar career choices or you're both accountants. It's got to be deeper than that to be of one mind. And there's sacrifice in that and looking to other people's interests and investing in that. So I think that's a good verse, even though it is talking more collectively to the church. I think it can be applied to
well,
relationships
I mean,
as well.
the church is treat your wife. There's all that.
That is true.
So
there
I
is
think
a
it
lot
all
there.
applies. Okay, so I did witness something the other night.
Sure.
So I went over to my brother's house,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny. Him and his wife, they have this really interesting relationship, and I mean it like they fight, but they're not fighting, but they're always. It sounds like they are.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a light. My light came back on.
It decided it would grace you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate
Wow,
it. Light.
you're sparkling.
You can't see it. I got a light that's in my face, and it just turned off and on. I think someone's trying to blink at me.
Well, a little history too. They've been together since
That's what I was going to
high
say.
school.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they literally they started dating in like junior high.
Wow.
Okay? Like maybe into the freshman year, kind of that.
Oh,
summer.
middle school?
Middle school. Yeah.
Oh,
So they've
wow.
been dating, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they married. He went to law school, and they've been together this entire time, and we're talking. Oh, gosh, what 25 years or something like that? It's
Mm-hmm. Forever.
ridiculous when you hear it. But as they talk, I realized when they were talking, I was like, wow, you two don't have things to talk about because everything you talk about is something you both experience. Like, other
Okay.
people getting into a relationship, they've had a life prior to
Interesting.
the other party that they met, and they have things they can share about their previous world, and they can bring it, and it's cool story and it's cool dialogue, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, but like they've known each other since junior high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They
like
grew up
all their
together.
friends are each other's friends, so there's no
Yeah.
surprises. Plus they've been married forever.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of one of those things. It was kind of a little eye opening. I was like, they're not fighting. They're literally trying to make make something
Well,
interesting
I think
going
there's
on.
beauty in the concept of being with somebody that long that you can finish each other's sentences. But I think the challenge in that
Challenging
is
that. I was late on that sentence.
Yeah,
I was
you-
trying to finish
you
that
tried.
sentence.
the challenge in that is that you have to dig deep and you have to find new things. You have to create bucket lists or things that you're going to try, do a challenge of the next 10 days, every day, we're going to try something new together. I mean, you have to be creative in kind of creating that little tension you were talking about, but in a healthy way to further grow. I mean, I think as humans, we need to do that and push ourselves, but in relationships, we definitely need to always be discovering that.
Yeah.
You can't, I guess you can't get complacent.
No,
it's back
it-
to the effort thing,
I
my
mean,
gym
it's
example.
kind of like, okay, it's the same thing as like if you and your friend, you guys are hanging out and you guys never do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, at least my buddies, you
Yeah.
know, I have my buddies that do different things, you know,
Right.
so, you know, I got one buddy that I would go play video games with. I
Mm-hmm.
got another buddy that I would go camping with, you know, I would have another buddy that I would, you know, go, like, I know who to go out with. If I was going to go out bar hopping, you know, and having fun out at night, I know I'm bringing Randy, you know.
Oh, Randy.
But if it's something like camping or something, well, I mean, all those boys, they camp.
Yeah.
I'm the outsider in the camping world.
Yeah.
I showed up for camping with a waffle maker because I was going to make chicken and waffles. I'm the
story.
biggest idiot.
No, what happened? What
No,
happened?
It fell apart.
He
okay?
blew
It kept
every
blowing
fuse.
Like I heard, I'm like, they're like, well, we got a power. We got power at this campsite. I was
And
like,
this is why we're perfect.
And I have all these extension cords. I show up, but the one thing they
And I'm
always,
like, I'll bring
yeah,
mimosas.
I have like an air mattress I fill up, you know, and
Yeah.
I mean,
He
it's so
glamps.
ridiculous.
You glamp. You glamp.
I'm the biggest pansy. I mean, I'm out there like, yeah, but then it's like, oh, like, is that
Glamper.
Is that a spider? Ugh. So these dudes are out there like scaling fish and stuff, and
Yeah.
like bringing it back to feed all of us. And here I am showing up with like
A
you know,
waffle maker.
a waffle maker, making chicken and waffles. So if you need
And
any
they
tips,
said in the group chat, they said, Sean, do you think you could just handle bringing some donuts?
yeah, they put me on donut duty time before last. At least last time I did something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I grilled the taco meat,
Fajitas?
the fajitas.
Yeah.
But you know, I have my friends that I do things with, you know.
Right.
But none of my friends I hang out with or ever see, we never do nothing.
Right.
You know.
But that's weird. But because in a relationship, you can just do nothing. You can just watch Netflix all night.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
And you see it too in movies where,
Yeah.
you know, the husband sits on one couch reading and the wife's on the other couch and, you know, knitting.
It's very
or-
common. I mean, I hear this from girlfriends all the time.
So just, you know, it really, to spice up a relationship, you know, ruin his favorite activity.
This is not my summary.
Yeah, this is, but you know,
Ruin his favorite activity.
Yeah, just ruin it. Make him, you know,
Go team, go.
guilt trip him every time he wants to go out camping or something.
Mm.
But you know, it is important to try to, you know, mutate. Okay, mutate into what
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know would be a good,
I like
you know, spouse, and don't fake it. You know, I
Yeah.
know when she's faking it
Yeah.
about things I really like. You know, and
Not the greatest
I talk
actress.
about aliens, and she just.
Oh,
you know, it's her
gosh.
head. It's
Forget
funny 'cause her
it. Forget it. You can
her
have that
friends
to
have
yourself.
More interest in my stories.
You know what it is because they, not that they make fun of you, but they think it's hysterical because you get so into it.
Well, it's
You're like,
'cause-
and then there's this conspiracy
I'm
theory.
just
So
saying.
they just think it's hysterical where I've heard them all from you.
You haven't heard them all.
I've
Oh, yeah,
heard
I
them
got
all.
So many more. I just hold them. I hold them for those days when we're 70.
And
She's
here's-
gonna
and
bring
here's-
up something, and I'm just gonna pull out a doozy. She's like,
There we go.
I didn't know this.
Wow, I'm so excited. But here's the thing too: is life would be really boring if you guys were exactly the same. So the differences actually create.
Is it though? Okay. I've seen those couples who could be like brother and sister. You know, they're so identical in everything they do.
Yeah,
you know,
but then how do you grow?
But they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, they when they go out, they're doing things together. So they
Yeah.
have so much in common. But they're happy, you know. They both, you know, love this. They love that. They love this.
I mean, I feel like we fall more on that scale, but I do think there are.
I think our individuality kind of pops off.
Yeah, but I think for most people, like if you're depressed right now and you're like, great, I married someone and like we have nothing in common.
Right.
Like different viewpoints do challenge you and they do make it so that like you have to get outside of your box and your comfort zone. So it's not a bad thing, but ultimately you have to settle on some things that you both love
Yeah.
that you can do together.
Figure out something.
I mean,
Figure out
it's
something to
nothing
do.
more depressing than seeing a couple out to dinner and they're both on their phones or they both just look like they want to be somewhere else.
Or they're eating and they're not talking.
Yeah, it's
you
like
know?
sad. And I think the commonalities create that bond where you get that chemistry.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Hopefully this helped you guys out and gave you some insight. If you're in a relationship and it's boring and you guys have nothing in common,
Try the adventure book.
Yeah, do something. You know, spice it up. You know, go. You know, rob a homeless man. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea.
Sometimes-
But
okay.
it might spice it up.
No,
I'm just saying,
sometimes
ever
we're
ran from the
out and
cops
he
before?
just says the weirdest things and I don't know if I should apologize. And then sometimes they really laugh and then it's awkward.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, don't do any of his
Yes,
suggestions.
no, I'll put a few of my suggestions below. Make sure that you read over them, and if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll tell you where to find the homeless people. But I think in rewinding back.
Actually, can we say something about homeless?
Okay, go ahead.
This is really cool. Sean will never brag about himself, but he packed a bunch of baggies and supplies and packed foods and water bottles for homeless people in Dallas. And he went out with his kids and distributed food for a whole afternoon. So there's
everybody liked me except one dude.
Well, one guy didn't want ham,
yeah,
right?
No, he was apparently he's like I don't eat ham. I'm like, really, dude? Like,
Okay, but that's not the
sorry.
point.
I'm sorry. I had to
The
come back with a
point
turkey dinner.
is mission is a great way to build a bond, and it's a great way that you can share something with your spouse, and it doesn't necessarily mean that either of you would ever choose it, but together by going and serving homeless or going and doing something for your community, like that's a great way to deepen your roots.
Yeah,
So
I do agree.
okay, homeless, there you go. I'm
yeah.
gonna make it meaningful.
I mean, there's stuff. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do that I think as long as you're kind of doing it in that spiritual way, you're kind of looking at, I think there is a level of bonding that really helps. Going to church together. Those are types of things that you can do as a couple that will hold it together.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice if the two of you guys like the same stuff. So try to find those things. And if neither one of you guys like what each other does, maybe there's something out there that both of you will like. So be adventurous.
Yeah. So to answer the question, can you date someone with no common interests? My answer is no. Eventually you have to have common interests, or how can it sustain 30 years?
And mine and Paula Abdul's, yes, you can. But it's okay. We differ on this.
Opposites attract.
Opposites attract.
But they don't always. It doesn't always
natural
make
thing.
for
I
the
don't know
best
the words, but
long-term
it was very
relationship.
popular. And she danced with a cat. You've never seen. She's so young. She doesn't even know this stuff.
I'm not that young.
Yeah, you don't remember Paula Abdul.
I
You
do.
know her from dancing
Yeah,
things, but you don't know her from her music. She's a phenomenal
Anyways, opposites attract. Nothing to do with common interests.
singer. Well, anyways, if you have any other questions or whatever, let us know. We'd love to talk about it. Until next time, thanks again.
Bye.